Despite Allen's incredible performance, the Bills D gets battered by the Rams 44-42 to drop the Bills to 10-3. We're going to recap all the good and all the bad in this game. Let's go!
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Pro Football Hall of Famer and former Buffalo Bill Andre Reed. You're listening to Nate and the Fellas on Circle the Wagons podcast. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Go Bills.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now? Hey, hey, let's go Buffalo. Hey, hey, let's go Buffalo. The Bills make me wanna shout.
What is up, Bills Mafia? Welcome to another episode of Circling the Wagons, a Buffalo fan base Bills Mafia podcast. I am your host, Nate. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on this. I mean, let's be honest, it's not a great game to recap. There's a lot of things went wrong. A few things went good. A few things were worth, positively noting for this Bills loss, but we're going to talk about everything, good and bad. And I'd like to welcome for this episode my co-host, Mike, to the Circling the Wagons podcast. Mike, despite the circumstances, man, it is so good to talk to you again. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. I can't believe they lost. What was with the timeout, man? Oh,
wait, which timeout? You mean running, doing the tush push at the 1 yard line and not getting it? And then
that was the whole game to me.
Yes,
that's what it came down to.
Why did they even call it to begin with? You mean? Yeah, they should have just.
I hate the play call, and then I hate the timeout after the play call.
Yeah, agreed.
Like just that's the worst possible thing you could have done.
That could have been the difference because
it definitely was the difference.
There's a lot of things that were the differences, but that's we got to talk about that for a second. Is the timeout, the tush push in general? I'm going to talk about the tush push in a second, but
who calls that play? McDermott?
It's got to be Joe Brady. I don't think McDermott calls that play.
Or do you think Allen audibles at the line or something? I was perplexed that's the play you just get up to the line in 3 passes.
I know, exactly. That's what you do. You just do 3 passes, or you do some sort of screen. I don't know. You do something that would cause the clock to stop in case something like this happens where you don't get you never run it when time's an issue like that, ever.
And the timeout is more valuable than get the ball set and run, get back to the line. That timeout is so incredibly valuable. It was so frustrating, man. Such a thrill to have them come back. They're going to do it. With Allen, they're going to do it. And then those 2 boneheaded decisions, that play call, and then the timeout.
Yeah. The play call, the timeout. I mean, it was a rough game all around for the Bills. Even that play, the defense had a really, really rough game. Special teams had their moments. It really killed the Bills. But yeah, that play, those last few plays, Mike, I mean, we could talk the entire hour about that last 3 minutes of the game, just all the things that went wrong. And I think it started really legitimately with that play, them not getting the push that they need. Does it feel like so about the tush push?
Well, it felt like they didn't get set right. They saw something and were trying to hurry it up the line a little bit, and that apparently worked to their detriment.
Yeah, they saw something hey, let's call a quick play. I thought they were just trying to rush and just get it ready because they didn't want to waste time. But it would have been, you would have saved 20 seconds and a timeout, or you would have lost 20 seconds, but you would have saved a timeout probably if you just reset and run the same exact play, just like they did, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
very frustrating. For sure. What did you think about, it was the series before that where the Rams scored and the offensive lineman on the right side on 4th. Okay.
So egregious.
Let's go. Wait. I was going to say, talk about the false start, but hold on. We got to go back just one play before that talks about Sean McDermott for a minute, because the Rams, it was 4th and 7. Matthew Stafford gets out of bounds, gets tackled. The clock stops. Instead of them taking the 4th and 7 at the 40-yard line or whatever, McDermott adds another 10 on, gives them the 3rd down again, and then they get 12 yards on it, right? Or something to get 4th and 5. And then they decide to go for it because they're so much closer. That was
But wasn't it only 2 yards closer? Like, I think
only 2
in
yards.
hindsight, yeah, you'd rather it be 4th and 7 than 4th and 5, but
Yeah.
I think they still
Still
I would have
going for it.
backed him up to not allow the field
Yeah,
goal.
just in case. Yeah, they played
Yeah.
so soft though. They had like 10 yards between them and the next guy, and the guy just basically catch and fall down. But yeah, and then going into what you were just about to fly into a rage about.
That incredible. Like, how do we all identify it? It's the dude got off the line half a second, like was out of his stance.
Yeah, here, let me show it real quick. I'm going to share my screen for those of you that are tuning in live to us. I normally don't do this, but we'll see how this goes because sometimes StreamYard
Is
doesn't
it your
like this.
full
But
screen? Be careful.
it will be. Okay. You watch him step back like that, the right tackle. Uses switches here, quick false start. It's up early, false start again. 2 false starts here. How many were called, Mike?
Couldn't hear you.
Starts
What'd
out.
you say? What'd you
I
say?
said how many false starts were called on that play alone? Exactly. 0. Yeah, that's frustrating because that was a play that they scored on. So, or at least they got the first down, whatever. It doesn't matter. They scored on that drive.
Did you like, definitely that felt obvious, but it didn't feel like the refs. I didn't feel the Bills lost the one that's sticking out in my mind is when Allen got dragged down from behind and they thought it was like a horse collar, like unsportsmanlike, like wasn't roughing the passer. But remember when he was running to the right and got dragged down? I didn't see that.
You thought got away? You thought the Bills got away with that one, right?
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't have called that. And then I'm trying to think go through the pass interference calls in my, like, it seemed
the Bills got away
there was
with
the one on Cooper I thought could have been called with the long pass holding his jersey.
Yeah, that one I thought could have been not called, right? Like, because that was a 3rd down, it would have been a 4th down, but then they called the holding call and the Rams get the first down, right, on that one.
No, we're talking about 2 for 1, like where Amari Cooper was.
Oh, Amari Cooper.
I think
sorry,
pick up the flag on that one.
They meant Cooper Kupp. Yeah, they did pick up the flag.
Yeah,
the flag. I didn't love
that.
I was like,
that was wait.
What do I?
But I thought the Bills kind of got gifted the one on
Hamlin, right?
With Robinson. Yeah,
Robinson.
Yeah, and you're like, oh man, Hamlin.
God,
like, you could tell he totally pulled the receiver back.
Oh, so yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, Mike, he pulled him back because he got pushed away. So he had to do that. But you're right. They definitely got away with that one. Absolutely.
So it felt like not the greatest calls, but the mistakes were on both sides.
It felt like it was more for the Rams, in the Rams' favor, it felt like, than the other way around. But that's just me. I think it was.
But on the pass interference with Nacua, when they slowed it down and you saw the replay, it's like it looked like the Bills defenders were holding him, his jersey or arms around the way. Like, man, he was just. I can't recall like a player dominating, like a receiver, we'll say, like Derrick Henry seems to have our number. A receiver dominating the Bills like that. It was just something to see. Like his actual stats, it felt like it was double what he actually had. Because like every time on 3rd down, it's like, okay, why don't we double? Why don't we triple?
Yeah.
Nacua. Like, first down, 15-yard gain. Like every time.
Every time. And not only that, like Matt Stafford was throwing dimes to him too. I mean, he was on fire too. It felt like a conglomeration of they were playing the best game that they could have played against the Bills, and they just didn't make mistakes. But yeah, Nacua, dude, I don't remember the last receiver that just all out. And it wasn't like it was against Kaiir Elam or a backup like Jamarcus Ingram, like backup corners or anything like that, Cam Lewis, whatever. Like these were against our best cornerbacks. It was against Christian Benford. It was against Rasul Douglas. It was against Taron Johnson even, like he was abusing them. He was so good today.
Did whatever he wanted. And man, and some of them, you're like, man, if the Bills and Rams played again, the Rams had a couple. They like, I don't know if you'd make that play 1 out of 10, right? Like Cooper Kupp in the end zone catching it off his thigh.
Yeah.
Right. Like the Nacua catch on the end zone. Like, I'm sick of losing the game of the year and giving up the catch of the year. Like every freaking time. Like that sideline catch with Nacua was amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was just, it's funny. I gotta pull this up, but it was Jared Bailey, one of my favorite follows on Twitter, because he's a Steelers fan, but he definitely is like a huge Josh Allen fan. I've had him on the podcast to discuss that. He's a super cool guy. He writes for, like, just the general NFL as well. But here, you got to see this tweet by Jarrett. This is like, he says Puka Nacua on every play today, and here we have the Odell Beckham Jr. Catch. We have the Garrett Wilson catch. This catch by a Florida Gator wide receiver, I don't know, and this other one by Deontay Johnson, right? Like, it's just one thing after another. Like, that's how it felt today, for sure. So when we talked, I think it was last week even, about, we weren't there, unfortunately. It was just John and I. We were talking about what the Bills win the Super Bowl if blank, right? And I was saying, if the Bills aren't going into this, the playoffs, and they don't have a lot of major injuries to major players, right? That was my thing, is injuries. The Bills have been snake bitten the last few seasons. They go in healthy, but at the same time, something that you just never think about, because it's not something that you can quantify, is luck. Is how lucky you are when it matters. And unfortunately for today, luckily it wasn't the postseason, but unfortunately for the Bills, the Rams were very lucky, and they did everything right. Like, if you run into a team like the Rams at any point in the playoffs, even if you play a great game, you will lose probably 9 times out of 10 when they're playing that well in the net, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree. Like, luck is a huge factor, and like we talked about those catches, but by the same token, like, the Bills seem to shoot themselves in the foot at certain times, like with the timeout that we've talked about, with the play call. Like, they're right there, and it looms large at the end. But also, I would say, like, the zone coverage, like, they didn't adapt like we thought they could do. We've seen them do it in other situations, right? Like, they did not press at the line at all. They didn't try anything new. Like, I thought the defensive line, just, Matt Stafford is an older, non-mobile quarterback. How do you not get to him one time? Right. Just a lot of things that I thought the Bills were better at. And talking about looming large, like, how about the Rams punted at the end? Like, that was in play, wasn't it? And like, why are we not returning that?
I don't know. I think it was just too deep, and they just didn't,
like, have someone back. Like, it's like every highlight show you watch week to week, something's right. Like, it seems like every year Dolphins and New England ends on a 15 laterals in a row. Like, how
it's like they weren't even trying for it.
But
yeah. They were just like, we just gotta hope to get the ball. We just gotta hope to get the ball back. And then what are you hoping there for them to do a trick play with 1 second?
Yeah,
you're, as opposed to just being ready just in case. Yeah, I don't want to take it at the one. I don't know. They should have had, like,
with 7 seconds.
They should have had 7 guys back there blocking. Then just tried whatever, right? Yeah,
it just irks them. Yeah,
they were not prepared for that whatsoever. Yeah. Yep. That's a frustrating loss. Mike, what do you think, just in general, with that loss? Obviously, the Bills are 10-3 now. They're still going to make the playoffs. They're still going to win the division. Their seeding now is kind of in doubt. If they can still get that 1 seed, we'll still see how the Chiefs do and the Ravens do and the Steelers do for the rest of the season. But, what's your overall thoughts on the team? Because, that this was a loss. I mean, it wasn't a great team. The Rams were 6-6 going into this. So you're not talking about a team that's a juggernaut by any stretch, but a good team. They've been playing better as of late. They have a lot of good weapons. Like you said, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, one of the best in the NFL. Like, this is a good team. Does this change your outlook on the Bills going into the final stretch of the season or into the postseason at all?
I think a little bit. I think the shine we're just riding the win streak, dismantling the 49ers. Maybe that game's a little bit different if not for the snow. Now, like, you kind of go back and
reassess.
True. Yeah, I think so.
Calibrate your opinion of this team.
I still think they're one of the best in the league, but I like McDermott. I want, like, it's not reactionary, but the decision making continues to be a problem. And I'm not advocating anything. I just wish it would improve.
Can I say that, like, I don't want to take any blame away from Sean McDermott. I'm a staunch Sean McDermott defender. I listen to a lot of different folks talk about McDermott. Like, Eric Wood always talks about him on the pregame show. And he's like, Sean McDermott is one of the most prepared individuals I've ever been a part of or known. He doesn't say he's one of them. He says he is the most prepared individual. He talks at length about all the amazing things Sean McDermott does. This is a guy, obviously he works for the building, but he goes way out of his way to say how highly he thinks of Sean McDermott. So it kind of affects how I feel about him. I like Sean McDermott. I think he brings something to this team that a lot of teams don't have. And I think he could have coached better. I don't take blame away from him. But if I was to put a lot of the blame, most of the blame on this game, it was the defense. The defense couldn't stop anything to save their life. They got one punt the entire game, and they couldn't stop them when it mattered. So as much as I think that, McDermott does have a play in it, if I were to give him blame, I'd probably do 25% maybe. I'd probably give about 50% to the defense, 51%, and then like the rest of it to that special teams blunder, that punt block where Reed Ferguson just got rolled over like a bowling pin. And the guy I've never seen Reed Ferguson make a miss like that. Of course, unfortunately, it was very costly for the Bills, and it potentially ended up costing them the game. But when I look at that, I don't look at Sean McDermott. So there are things that give me, again, that punt block. We go into things that like teams get lucky on. When was the last time you saw that happen to the Buffalo Bills? It's been a long time. That doesn't happen all the time. When was the last time you saw the Bills defense give up 44 points? Well, I mean, I guess it's 30. They scored 44, but really it was -7. So 37 points. They haven't given up 37 points all season. So I don't take as much away. So you say maybe it kind of takes away some of the shine of the team. I agree to a small extent, but I look at this as just like, luckily it was against an NFC team. It doesn't affect the seeding besides your record. And I think that everything went right for the Rams and not enough went right for the Bills. Even though Josh Allen played his freaking butt off and he looked absolutely amazing today, he had a great stat line. Well, while we're doing this, let's go into stats of the game. Stats of the game. Let's start off with Buffalo, of course. I'm talking about Josh Allen. 22 for 37, 340 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Josh Allen had 0 turnovers. Both teams, 0 turnovers today. Of course, if you don't count that punt block, which is clearly a turnover, but offense and defense, no turnovers. Josh Allen, also the leading rusher for the Buffalo Bills, 10 carries, 82 yards, 3 touchdowns. Josh Allen on the day had 6 total touchdowns, 3 in the air, 3 on the ground, and over 400 yards of total offense by himself. Huge stat line. Mike, guess how many times that's happened where a player has scored 6 touchdowns in a game and they've lost the game? Or guess how many times that's actually happened in NFL history?
What's the question?
Well, I'm sorry. Okay. Guess how many times a team has had at least 6 touchdowns and 0 giveaways in a game? How many times does that happen, you think? Just give a round number. 0, 100, 200, whatever.
Had 6 touchdowns and lost?
No, just six touchdowns and 0 giveaways in a game in the Super Bowl era. It's happened 245 times.
Why'd you say 0? Why are you anchoring me so low?
Well, here's all right.
0? No, 260. Look like an idiot.
15, you moron. What have you? Is this the first time you've ever watched a football game? So that's happened 245 times. Guess how many times the team with 6 touchdowns and 0 giveaways has lost in 245 occasions?
8.
0. It's never happened before. See? You saved the 0 for the wrong stat. No, it was 0. So that the Bills are the first one in NFL history, in the Super Bowl era at least, to lose that. So yeah, not great, Bob. But that just goes to show you, I don't look at that as much as how bad the game was, how great Josh Allen is, and how much the defense let him down. To be honest, we're going to go into Wall of Fame and Wall of Shame later, but I mean, I'm kind of giving you a preview of where I think the blame lies. And by the way, we've got over 2,000 people following us live, streaming this, watching this on Facebook, on Twitter, social media, YouTube, whatever. If you have any comments while we're doing this live and they show up in the chat, I'll present them if they're halfway decent, which they usually are. Our listeners are some of the smartest. Our viewers, listeners, subscribers are some of the smartest in Bills Mafia. By the way, have you ever heard like a WGR like phone call in the last few years? Do you ever do that? I don't know if you do that, Mike. Way to work or anything. I don't listen to a whole lot of WGR. It's not that I don't like them. I just don't a whole lot. Sometimes I think it affects the way I discuss the Bills, so I like to kind of have like my own thoughts and be creative. If you listen to a WGR caller, say what you will about the hosts. Some of the hosts I love, some of them I can't stand. The callers, man, the callers are so rough. I talk about like our viewers and listeners when I've done Twitter Spaces, just audio wise. There's some very thoughtful people that come in. We could be talking about everything we just talked about just now, Mike, about Sean McDermott, about the defense, about Josh Allen, all these interesting things that you could definitely talk about as well. And someone will call up and be like, Keon Coleman hasn't played the last couple of games. Shouldn't we trade him? And I'll be like, what? Who? Then, the WGR guys just kind of have to go like, well, and I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So anyway, shout out to our viewers and listeners. And if it sounds like I am placating to all of you, it's because I am. So Mike, stats of the game. Let's go over James Cook, 6 carries for 20 yards. Not a whole lot. I'm surprised he didn't run the ball a little bit more. I know the Rams don't have a great run defense, so I'm surprised the Bills didn't try to take advantage of that more, but that's more of a Joe Brady thing. How can I be mad, Mike? How can I be mad at Joe Brady and the play calling when they score 42 points? You know what I mean? Like, how much can I truly, truly pick on them? Every time you score 42 points, I feel like you should win the game. It's not on the offense. Khalil Shakir.
To your point about the preparation, like you say, you trust Eric Wood, and like I think it's completely different things. Saying your argument is Eric Wood says McDermott is well prepared. Is that right?
Yes.
Like how many head coaches does he know? Like what are we comparing it against? With the caveat that I like McDermott, and you're saying he's a company guy. Like it's difficult to get somebody to understand something when their salary depends on them not understanding it, would be my answer to you. Right? Like preparation is one thing, in-game decision making is something else. And I think that continues to be a problem.
That's fair, Mike. I agree. And that's what scares me the most about Sean McDermott in the postseason is that his decisions like this, like these game time decisions.
That timeout was killer.
It was a killer. Yeah. And gaffes like that, right? That's what I'm afraid of is when it might matter. Again, I think he's gotten better. He's definitely become more aggressive. And I think he's
definitely.
like, it's like, we rag on him for that, the tush push or whatever. But then again, he was like, go for it on 4th down against the Chiefs a couple weeks ago. And it was the best play of the season, right? Like, I don't think these guys are perfect. I know Sean McVay doesn't call perfect games. It's just, we're in the moment, man. We're angry. We got to blame someone. And I definitely agree. He needs some of the blame. Real quick, while we're on Sean McDermott, I got to read this tweet from Tyler. I hate the narrative and oversimplification of McDermott sucks in big games. Fire him. It's lazy. The defense was bad today, but can we just not continue with the narrative that he doesn't win big games? It's not correct. It's that fans are apparently the arbiter of these big games. Apparently today was a big game, but KC a few weeks ago wasn't, and the 6-game win streak last year weren't big games. I can't argue with Tyler.
No, I agree too.
Tyler. Yeah. Hey, Tyler, don't stop making a little too much sense. Okay. I don't need you taking over our podcast. He's saying his in-game decision-making only seemed to be judged in losses when he made a very good decision. We made very good decisions and wins, like the 4th and 2 a few weeks ago. They lost the game. So it's exacerbated. Yep. Exactly. Ooh, exacerbated. Jeez. I think you give our listeners a little too much credit, Tyler. Exacerbated. I don't even know what that means. So I
feel like exaggerated works better.
Exaggerated. I know. Jeez. All right, Tyler, we get it. You went to an Ivy League school. No, it's well put. And I think we're prisoners of the moment. And again,
but what do you want to talk about? Like just nothing? Just having fun.
I'm just messing around. I thought I was just joking.
Just kidding.
I was just kidding this whole time. Mike's throughout most of our friendship has been like, if anything ever got too serious, it'd be like, dude, I was just joking, dude. And even if Mike made it even a semi big deal, he'd be like, dude, I was just joking too. I thought we were all just kidding. I try to run that past my wife, and she's just like, no, you didn't. No, you weren't just joking then. I'm like, all right. That's fine. Tyler says, I'd rather be nuanced. Absolutely. Tyler, you are at the right show. If you have not listening to Circling the Wagons, we are totally nuanced. We try to be unbiased too. It's not all black. It's not all white. There's a lot of gray in there and separate things.
But we can agree, like he might be the greatest coach to ever live and is super prepared. But the decision to take a timeout was the wrong one. Can we agree on that?
Oh yeah.
Right. I'm not saying fire him. I'm not saying you get anybody back. Like it's not, that's a false choice. I'm
Agreed.
just saying I don't love that decision. You could be the best driver in the world. I'm like, well, you shouldn't have turned in front of the semi. I don't know. That one instance is all I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And I think that
Is he like a moderator? How does that keep popping up? You like selecting that?
he
Does he
keeps.
just have the power?
I do select it, but he keeps on having good
Oh.
takes. I mean, how do I?
Yeah.
I don't-
In real time?
in real time? Yeah. Well, when he writes it and I look at it and I think it's all
Gotcha.
right. He
Gotcha.
said some dumb things in the thing I'm not putting in the chat. No, I'm just kidding. Tyler, this is the first and last episode he ever pays attention to. That's all right. You know, we're not here for everyone. So Khalil Shakir, leading receiver for the Buffalo Bills, 5 targets or 5 receptions on 8 targets, 106 yards, 1 touchdown. Khalil Shakir, the pinball wizard or the human pinball, whatever you want to call him. Another great game by him.
Dude had some wheels on that touchdown too.
He did.
That was awesome.
He did. Did you
He
know
just
what's good?
turned it on, blew
You know
by
what's
guys.
oh yeah. When he catches the ball, man, it's never a guarantee that he's gonna get tackled ever. He's so exciting to watch. Definitely the most exciting wide receiver from that standpoint that we've had in recent memory. Maybe since Andre Reed. It's been a long time, but yeah, for sure. Love us some Khalil Shaq here. I like to call him the Shaq, as in yak, yards after catch. Shaq here. It's a little bit of a stretch on the nickname. I'm sure ChatGPT could come up with a better one. Mari Cooper, 6 receptions on 14 targets for 95 yards, 0 touchdowns. Mac Hollins, the vibe receiver. Vibe receiver sounds like wide receiver. The vibe receiver, 4 receptions on 6 targets for 57 yards, 1 touchdown. Great touchdown by Mac Hollins. Ty Johnson actually had a screen pass that went not only for a first down, Mike, but it actually scored a 41-yard touchdown. Like, how insane is that? He had 2 receptions on 3 targets for a touchdown. That was one of my favorite plays of the game for a number of different reasons.
That's crazy, Nate. You trying to Dale Carnegie me?
Dude, you know Dale Carnegie, a Dale Carnegie graduate, Mike. If you've ever...
How do you know my name is the sweetest sound in the world to me?
This goes into our discussion of like women that you're attracted to or people that you're attracted to that have a very similar name to you. Mike liking Michaela, you know, like this huge fan of Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman from back in the day. I was always a huge fan of Natalie Portman for some reason. Still am. Huge fan of Natalie Portman.
I think I think that's our kink, like hearing our name.
Johns would be other people named John.
But spelled John. So it's like a little different.
It's a little less weird. That would be like if you had like, I'm trying to think of what's a girl's name that could be spelled like a guy's name if you spell it like Alex. No, that's Alex can only be spelled one way. But I'm trying to think there's one that's like, oh, is that a guy or a girl? And then you see the way it's spelled, like, oh, it's probably a girl spelling. That's like him. Anyway,
Charlie?
Charlie
no,
was
that's the same.
Charlie is a girl's name though too. It is a girl's name.
Yeah, it's nice. But you spell it the same, right?
Yeah. We'll think of it later as we're going through.
After like we'll wake up in the middle of the night.
And I'll just go live then and I'll be like, it was Jesse. It was on the Rams side of the ball, Matthew Stafford, 23 for 30, 320 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Aaron,
yes, Aaron, exactly. Aarons have got to be attracted to other Aarons. I met a girl through a girl that I was dating, and her name was Aaron. And
love it as a girl's name.
As a girl's name. Oh, yeah,
guy's name.
Guy's name, loser, right? Like no, it's I like Aaron's. I think it should Aaron, right? Like Aaron. I like that. They hate that, by the way, Aaron's. They're so uptight, man. So anyway, her name is Aaron, and then she was going to marry a guy with the last name Aaron. That was his last name. So she was literally going to become Aaron. If you introduce yourself, even though it's different.
Dating.
What's that?
I thought you were dating this person.
I was dating this person who knew this girl who was going to be married. So
could you just keep your same name?
Yeah, you could. I feel like, so I'm kind of traditional. I'm glad my wife took my last name. I would have been, I think, okay with it possibly. But in that situation, I feel like you got to be okay with it. Like, you can't be a jerk, right? Like, dude, like, it's one thing if you're not to be, misogynist, but it's one thing if your wife has your last name versus your children. Like, I feel like that's a different thing, right? Like, if you're trying to pass on your name or whatever. But
I think you could alternate.
You'd alternate?
Mm-hmm.
Be like, you got to, For me though, I'd want to wait to see how they turned out. Like give it a few years. I'd be like, yeah,
Right.
that one can
Pick
be
your
yours.
favorite.
Yeah, you see
Right.
their favorite. She'd be like,
Right.
oh, that's bullshit. I'm taking Jeff. Like, no, I get Jeffrey. You get Jesse. So
Yeah, it would be weird if like you bonded better with the
yeah.
No, I don't think it matters. I think like, dude, if this shoe was on the other foot and you lived your whole life with this name and you're just supposed to change your name.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Okay.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
I hear people complain about it all the time. Things that the documentation they have to change. Yeah, I wouldn't like to do it.
I know.
I'm never doing it.
Unless it's way cooler.
Yeah. It's like the Punisher, right? Like the Punisher is their last name. I could be Nate Punisher, or I could just keep my same lame last name. Like, screw that, dude. I'm the Punisher. I would go out of my way to marry someone like that, even if I had if they were, I would not the least bit attracted to them, just so I could get that tattoo across my chest of the Punisher.
So you would go out of your way to find someone?
No. I mean,
I think you can just. I think you could just change it.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we don't really consider that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So Kyron Williams, the leading rusher for the Rams, 29 carries, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns. Puna Nacua, like you mentioned, just having a day, 12 receptions on 14 targets for 161 yards, 1 touchdown. He also had 16 yards rushing, over 100 or almost 180 yards of total offense from Nacua. Cooper Kupp, 5 receptions, 8 targets for 92 yards, and that's pretty much the stat line for this game. So those were stats of the game. Mike, let's go right into Sweet Sassy Molassy plays of the game.
Okay,
so
Nate.
Mike, so there were a lot of touchdowns in this game. What was your favorite play of the game? Sweet Sassy Molassy.
What's yours? I had so many written down that I thought were going to turn the game.
So, I mean, nothing turned the game, right? Because the Bills didn't win, obviously. I thought that I'm glad you mentioned the Shakir 34-yard catch. Or no, I'm sorry. That wasn't the touchdown. It was of course I closed it up. I think it was 51-yard touchdown by Shakir, right? Like that was an amazing play. The Bills were still down 21-31, but it kept them within 2 scores. I love that play. That's my honorable mention, though. My real Sweet Sassy Molassy play is the Ty Johnson 41-yard touchdown screen. And the only reason I'm putting that play above it, I don't think it was a better play, but it's just for the fact that the Bills haven't successfully run a screen pass since Chan Gailey in 2008. Like it's been forever. The defense is better at defending them. There's a while where the offense couldn't, actually execute one and the defense couldn't defend one. Well, now the defense finally learned how to defend one, and the offense has finally successfully completed one. So Ty Johnson, I love Ty Johnson. I think he's very underrated, and I would love it if he was the screenplay back for our team. I think he's great, but I like that. But honorable mention does go to the Shakir 34-yard catch.
Yeah,
or the 51-yard touchdown.
I think the Shakir one for me, but so many of, jeez.
I mean,
what's next? Wall of Fame. Where would this team be without Allen? I think he cemented his spot as the front runner for the MVP. Like, what an incredible performance, right? Like, where would the team be without him?
How do you look at today's game and say, that the Bills aren't losing by 30 points without him as quarterback, with 30 other quarterbacks in the NFL, maybe 28 other quarterbacks in the NFL. The Bills aren't even in this game, for sure. MVP conversation.
Just a timely run after run too, not being indiscriminate with the runs or with his body, really picking and choosing. It seemed like 3rd and long, every time, right?
Yeah. Dude, I get so nervous whenever Allen takes the ball and runs with it, that this is going to be the time he doesn't get up. He takes late hits, man. And I know that, Brady's like, well, they don't have to call that or the guy's got to hit Josh Allen going out of bounds because you never know he's going to hit a play. It's like, yeah, well, you don't have to. He's going out. He's going to go out. You can make him go a little bit quicker, but you don't have to, he's almost got 1 foot out of bounds. He's not going anywhere. You can put a hand up. But, I mean, if you hit him, it does send a message, but they got the penalty. I'm just always worried that this is going to be the last time that Allen gets up for the season or for a game or two down the stretch. It scares me when he does that. Again, we're lucky he's big. We're lucky he's strong, and he could do this. He's one of the few, so he's got to do it because hey, like what's the sense in having a Ferrari in the garage unless you're going to drive it, right? So that's Josh Allen. So it still makes me nervous, man. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, real quick before we go to Wall of
Yeah,
Fame.
I don't disagree. You're one play away from mediocrity.
Yeah, this team is mediocre, right? Without which
Well,
should have.
I just mean if he was injured long term or something.
Oh yeah, that's what
Right?
I mean too.
Yeah.
Yeah, without Josh Allen, this team is mediocre.
Right.
I think that should be the litmus test for the MVP. If you're the most valuable player if you're one of the best in the league, but then you're also the most valuable to your team, that's how that's. So you could say, like, obviously Joe Burrow, even though he's destroying statistically, he's obviously not the most valuable player to his team because they're not winning, right? Like you, if he does nothing, they win a couple more games or they lose a couple more games, right? Like that at this point, they're just not that good right now this season. You take Josh Allen away, they have 10 wins, maybe they have 4, right? Like it's stark difference. Whereas the Ravens, like I love Lamar Jackson, don't get me wrong. I think he's uber talented. And I wanted the Bills to draft him when he was coming out. But the way that team runs, Derrick Henry, the run game, the defense is really good. I mean, they still might be a winning team without him. They might be like the Steelers last year, right? Like they still made the playoffs, but they don't have a great quarterback. I think the Bills fall off the map personally, but that's me. I think they're like a 5 or 6 win team at most without Josh Allen. Let's see. If you were to give a Gettysburg of the game, the turning point of this Bills-Rams game, what would you give for the Gettysburg of the game? I mean, we talked a lot about some game-changing plays that could have gone one way or the other. I think you've mentioned a few that I would have put on there.
I think the moment with the Bills touchdown, the momentum shifted such a degree. Like I really think they had it with another timeout. So if we say, just can a timeout be the turning point of the game? Like up to that point, I think the blocked punt, like just no turnovers. Both teams were looking great on offense. So I think from the Rams' perspective, that blocked punt, scoop and score. From the Bills' perspective, the timeout.
Yeah, I think you put it well. That's exactly my sentiments. The punt block to go up. So the Rams went up 17-7 at that point. I mean, that's just a huge, when you're down 10-7, it's one thing, right? Like the game's still in it, you're punting it away. Sure. Like, but the defense might get a stop or maybe they just get a field goal on the next drive. You're only down by a score. Now, all of a sudden you're down by 2 scores and you're right back on the field. I think that's a huge deflating effect. And then, you could also go into the non-called false start. You could also go into Sean McDermott deciding to take the penalty on the holding instead of just letting the Rams have 4th and 7, stuff like that. So several, I think I like yours though, the one that you called. So now we're getting into it, man. Wall of Fame, Wall of Shame. I think I know who you're going to put on your Wall of Fame. Is it Josh Allen?
Yeah, definitely.
It's got to be, right?
Love Shakir week in and week out. Cooper, man, having him on the team, made that one great catch. It's like a highlight reel catch. I don't know, like Bass. I'm still getting over like the PTSD, like when we had, was it Dawkins, the 15-yard penalty. So it's like a 48-yard field goal, the extra point. Like, he's making them.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I like that honorable mention a lot, Mike. I was trying to find another honorable mention, but Bass not missing an extra point today was huge, especially like that last one. That could have made or broke the game potentially. If the Bills had gotten the ball back and gotten a field goal, they could have won it, right?
But it wouldn't even be on my radar if not for the earlier struggles. But hopefully he's come back.
So far, so good. One can hope. Unless he's saving those letdowns for the postseason, maybe he's in good shape. I'm gonna go along with you to give Josh Allen the Wall of Fame. I love the honorable mention of Tyler Bass. I did not have him as my honorable mention. I would have probably given my honorable mention to Khalil Shakir, but it was a good game. It was a good game all around by the Bills offense. I thought, again, 42 points. How do you get upset about that? Wall of Shame, Mike. I'm gonna start with this one with the Bills defense. Bills defense was a huge letdown today. No pass rush on most of the entire game. There's only a few times I even noticed Von Miller. He started to show up and like, oh, okay, all right, he's back, and then he just like that, he was disappeared again. The Bills just were struggling again. I saw someone had tweeted, what would you do with Ed Oliver and Von Miller's contract? And I'm like, yeah, like before Von Miller's suspension, he was playing really well, has not been playing that great since the suspension. Ed Oliver had a great season last season, and he's kind of disappeared this year. So the defensive line needs work, and I know that they're going to pay Greg Rousseau soon, and I really do like Greg Rousseau probably the most out of all the defensive linemen, but he can't do it on his own, and it's a disappointing unit from that standpoint. And again, there's only so much that they could do because Nacua and Stafford were having a tremendous day. But I think I'm going to give my first round of Wall of Shame. I have 3 different ones, but my first one to the Bills defense, not forcing any turnovers, not getting any sacks, and only forcing 1 punt. What about you?
I mean, it's just watching the game. The third down efficiency was like what the Bills allowed. Just felt it was 11 for 15, I think, and it seemed like every one was 3rd and long, and it's like double, triple Nacua. They just let them free off the line, zone coverage, and every single time. And then using that timeout, man, you had a real legit shot with 3 timeouts at the end. And I can get behind, like, or at least understand incompletes, failure to execute, but it's just boneheaded at the end that cost a chance to win the game. Like with 3 timeouts to have to kick an onside kick, that's such a low percentage chance, like unforgivable.
Yeah, the onside kick, yeah, it's just
never works. Never works.
I'm going to show you my meme for the Bills defense on 3rd and long, right? Yeah. So that's how I feel every time. I can't disagree with you. The onside kick, such a low percentage. Agreed there. I'm going to give another one, an honorable mention to Reed Ferguson, a guy who's been pretty reliable his entire tenure here as a Buffalo Bills long snapper. I don't know. He just tripped or something. It just was a really bad look, and it led to the punt block. And this was a game that you couldn't have that, right? Last week would have been a great game to have that happen. I would have preferred it, but today was the case. Was not the case. I'm also going to give an honorable mention to the tush push when it's obvious, especially when time is a factor, like it was at the end of the game. I know you've harped on the timeout. I blame part of that on the tush push. It's not a perfect. I don't like it for some reason. I don't know if anyone else that's watching this or listening to this, or you, Mike, if you agree with this, I don't think it's as good without Mitch Morris at center. Like, I think Connor McGovern's a good center. Don't get me wrong. I think he's exceeded my expectations for blocking and running the ball. For some reason, I don't think he's as good with the tush push. It just doesn't seem like the Bills get nearly as much push as they used to. Maybe it's also because Gabe Davis isn't pushing Josh Allen, and he was big. He's a big, strong receiver, right? Maybe that helps. I don't know. It just doesn't. I know it's effective. It just doesn't seem as effective as it has in the past.
You can't. I don't disagree, but you can't call it there in that situation. Take 3 shots to the end zone, then kick a field goal, and right?
Yeah. Or worst case scenario, you drop back to take a shot at the end zone. You see an opening and you run through for the touchdown, right? Like, yeah. Agreed. So some of the play calling, obviously, Wall of Shame material is just some of the questionable play calling at the end of the game. Anything else, Mike, that I missed before I go into tweets or anything like that? Okay. Let me pull up. After every Bills game, win or loss, I like to ask Bills Mafia, what is your hot take on this one, good or bad? And you do not disappoint. If you are following us, if you're not following us on Twitter, please follow us. We are at CTW Pod on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you want to catch us, like and subscribe, all that stuff. See, this is us right here, Mike. See, look at us. Picture within a picture. All right. Tyler says, okay, Tyler, we had mentioned earlier, he got in. Tom says the uncalled false start on the Rams' 4th down pretty much gave the Rams the game. Oh, agreed. I'm just going to read the ones that I agree with, I think, Mike. It's the ones that, or have made points that I've already made just to make it sound like I know what the hell I'm talking about. Even if it's 1 out of 200 people, I'm just going to read that one. Ken Scapes says, my take is the defense let us down again, as usual, in big games. Yeah, I can't agree with that. I can't disagree with that. It feels like every time the Bills lose, now sometimes in the postseason when the Bills get knocked out, it's also the offense's fault. But I want to say that most of the time every time it's the defense's fault also. And then sometimes it's the offense. Like you think about the 13-second game, right? That was the offense played great. The defense let that team down. You look at last season. The Bills barely lost to the Chiefs at home. The offense scored 24 points. The defense gave up 27 points against a not so great Chiefs offense at the time. Of course, the defense was battling injuries, but the defense was the part of the team that let them down, I think. So I agree with Ken Scapes. Kevin Jackson says this is a foreshadowing to how they will lose in the playoffs. Defense lets them down again. Hope I am wrong. See, just again to that point. Bubba Matt says our bad run defense caught up to us. It was a matter of time. Mark Giangreco says trap game all the way. Even Superman couldn't overcome the early kryptonite of a porous defense than the late kryptonite of another Sean McDermott clock miscue. Richard W. Griswold said, this is all on the defense and special teams. Score 42 and lose. Allen made heroic efforts to pull this one out, but the Bills' D forfeited 457 yards on 11 and 15 third down efficiency to the NFL's 18th ranked offense. Josh, still the MVP, 6 touchdowns, no turnovers. Gotta hope KC falters tonight. Absolutely. We'll all be rooting against KC. As of right now, we're recording this. We have no idea what happened. Says the Bills are a good team, but nothing more. Tonight's game proves they may not advance far in the playoffs. They don't stand a chance against the Eagles or the Lions. I don't think they can even beat the Steelers. Well, we'll see next week against the Lions. I'm going to wait until that game. Mike, let's say you and I are talking next week and the Bills get their doors blown off by the Lions. Now, how does that make you feel as far as their postseason? Because you mentioned today, like, it doesn't really, it makes you think a little bit, takes a little bit of luster away from this, 2024 Bills team. But if the Bills get stomped out by the Lions, it'll definitely make you rethink your overall view on how far this team can go, right?
Yeah.
I think if they barely lose, I'm okay with that because the Lions are that good of a team. And it's in Detroit. Like, that's one thing. If they get their doors blown off, I mean, all of a sudden we're thinking like the sky is falling and this team is not going to get it out of the divisional round again.
I don't like, and sometimes one game is such a small sample size and so many things can right? Like it comes down to inches and that dictates everything subsequent. We saw it today with some of these crazy catches. They kept drives alive. It'd be completely different.
Mike, when are the Bills going to have a game like that where everything, they just barely win, but everything works out just perfectly for them? Yeah. It feels like when they do play well, like they just win. They just win by double digits. I mean, the Bills still, I believe, have the largest point differential in the NFL. Kev Rads says, felt like a home game in the stands of SoFi. If you think the D-line had no impact today, wait for Detroit. Yeah, Detroit's got a great O-line. That's cool, Kev. Kev was at the game today in SoFi. That's awesome. Awesome. Big Mike says, I have a nosebleed. The entire Bills defense couldn't stop it. The decision to deviate from a successful running game this year showed early in this game. Thankfully, Superman Josh Allen for MVP was able to keep them in the game. Sherry, now this is a hot take from Sherry. Sherry says, I wouldn't hate to see more Dorian Williams and less Matt Milano, at least while he readjusts totally to game speed. I don't hate that idea. There were a few times where Milano looked out of place. They showed earlier in that Kyron Williams run where he just juked him right out of his shoes. I want to say there are times where I feel like Dorian Williams might be the better choice while Milano recovers. I think that's a hot take by Sherry, but I don't think there's any issues with anything she said. I kind of agree a little bit. It's like, is a 70 to 80% Matt Milano or whatever percentage he is right now, is that better than 100% Dorian Williams? I mean, it's tough. This is a tough one. And I don't remember honestly seeing Dorian Williams in at all this game. So I don't know if he even played a snap. I know he was active, but I don't know how often he was in there. Miss T says, after all these years, all the money and draft capital spent on the positions, and they still can't seem to stop the run or rush the passer. It's so frustrating. Next week, watch the Lions put 50 plus on them. Yeah, it's a great point. That's a great point. Brian B. Mormon 2020 says that McDermott has got to learn a lesson from this and make better decisions next time. He says that in quotes, which is what he's constantly doing. Dude, he's going to, just so you know, As long as Sean McDermott or any coach is our coach, they will make dumb decisions. Like there will never be a perfect season by any coach that coaches the Buffalo Bills. There will absolutely be at least a few games every season where you're just like, that was dumb. Why did they do that? No matter who your coach is. I guarantee there are games that Andy Reid loses with the Chiefs where the Chiefs are like, why did Andy do that? I know that was the case in Philadelphia. There was a huge criticism of Andy Reid in Philadelphia for using dumb timeouts, right? Like that would McDermott used to do that. He doesn't do that nearly as much anymore. Of course, today, minus that, he has grown. Shells 13 says, in no way should a team lose when putting up 42 points on offense. Agreed. Andrew Freeman says, my hot take, McDermott needs to play more Madden to practice situational awareness. His clock management blunders are the difference between wins and losses far too often and could cost us in the playoffs. Charles says that Josh Allen is not to blame. He played his heart out. The defense was dog crap. Yeah. JC says Allen is the MVP. Bills D got burned in zone by elite wide receivers, and we don't adjust to it. And I love that part by JC. The Bills were not adjusting enough to overcome what happened in the first half. I mean, we talked about the Bills being a second half team. They were offensively, but defensively, they stayed at the same mindset. They were very disappointing in the second half as well. 11 for 15, giving up third downs like Halloween candy. Douglas and Taron Johnson had horrible games. Mike, how about that hit on Rasul Douglas by Taylor Rapp? That's always frustrating when there's friendly fire.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you hope Douglas is okay. I don't believe. Now I come to think of it, I can't remember if he came back in or not. I think he came back in, but I think he went back into the locker room. So, yeah, Taron Johnson and Douglas had horrible games. Dorian Williams should start in front of Matt Milano. Another person saying Dorian Williams should start. This is the most Billsy shit ever. We will win next week. I like that. Babbage called an abysmal game, plus our D-line is fraudulent, and plus clock management continues to be an issue for McDermott. It says, used my brick for the first time this season. This is Kevin McDonald throwing his brick at the TV. Very nice, Kevin. David M. We're only going to do a few more of these. David M. Sikala says, bad defensive play all around. They couldn't find an answer to cover their big wide receivers. D-line was ineffective. Zone coverage seemed very vanilla. Linebackers didn't disguise their coverage that well. DBs could not handle man coverage. It was a heroic effort by the offense, but Stafford was the more consistent quarterback today. I don't know if I'd go that far. I wouldn't even say necessarily that Stafford was better than Josh Allen a whole lot in any way. Maybe there were a few small areas, but I thought both had a great game. I don't know if I would say Stafford was better. There were a few bad situational actions by coaching and players, but the D owns most of this loss. It is uncharacteristic for this team to give up that many points and yards. Hopefully it's out of their system. On to Detroit. Yeah, maybe they needed to get punched in the mouth. It's possible. Let's see. Rick Buck says Josh underthrows a wide open Mac Hollins near the end zone in the second quarter, resulting in the defender catching up and knocking the ball down. Would have been a touchdown if it was on target. Ensuing play is the punt block for Rams touchdown. If Josh makes that throw to Hollins on target, Buffalo wins. Wow. You want to talk about a Gettysburg of the game, Mike? Rick Buck is bringing it. He's saying it's way before the punt block.
One.
He's like the play before the punt block. I love it. Rick Buck, my guy.
Butterfly effect.
Then we're happier, and maybe we all perform better at our jobs tomorrow in Western New York, right? Like, there's a huge effect.
I just want there's like 8 alternate endings for that movie on YouTube.
Which movie? Oh, Butterfly Effect?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know 8. I only know of like one or two, I think. Tell me the other 6.
A lot of them are pretty similar.
I saw the one where he he uses the umbilical cord in the womb.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an interesting one. Jeez.
Yeah.
A little dark. And then there's one where everything works out well. Glad they didn't go with that one.
What was the actual theatrical? Now, like, I'm thinking of all of them.
I can't think of the actual one. Dude, now that you mention it, I don't think I remember how it actually ended. That was a good movie. If you guys have never seen Butterfly Effect with Ashton Kutcher, that's a really good movie. It messes with your head, man, but in a good way. It's a really cool, interesting twist of a movie. Dude, the part where he goes to prison, whew. Yeah. Makes me not want to go to prison. That movie specifically.
That sets you back on the right path.
I mean, I was, teetering there for a minute. Joey V says McDermott needs to take a class on situational football. Defense is a dumpster fire and cost the team a chance at the number 1 seed. Number 3, fire the special teams coach tonight for that block punt. I have said before, I'm not one to fire coaches. I'm not like, hey, fire this coach, fire this coach. He's the one coach where I'm like, if they got rid of him, I'd be okay with that. It's been a large sample size. I mean, it's been like 3 or 4 seasons, right? And they've never been anything more than either mediocre or bad. So, what's the worst thing? As opposed to like Sean McDermott, where I'm like, you get rid of McDermott, you lose a culture. You lose a special teams coach, you might actually get better. You might actually get much better. One more before we lose it. Before we end today on this one. Let's see. I'm going to do these two. These two guys have been in there a long time. Anakin Skywalker says, the not getting off the field on 3rd down was just brutal. Rams played exceptional, and Puka balled the F out. But the pass rush, never getting home in cover 0, was puzzling. Their O-line is traditionally terrible. Dude, I love Anakin's point. By the way, you can always tell when the Bills aren't doing well defensively with their pass rush by the fact that they just send blitzes a lot. Like, that they just don't believe in their 4 guys rushing the passer. When you start seeing a lot of blitzes, they're sending Terrell Bernard, they're sending Taron Johnson. It's because the guys, the front 4 are playing like dog crap. AJ Tharp says, I want Puka tested for steroids. Offense played their heart out, but the defense couldn't stop them. Big game from our O-line, giving up 0 sacks against the best pass rush in the league. I love that one. I'm going to end on AJ's tweet. Thank you guys all for listening, all for being a part of this and getting in out there. Like Jonathan Gage says, that was painful to watch. The defense looked like blank. There's a lot of things you can put in there. So yeah, appreciate all you guys being a part of this show. Even when they lose, we still try to discuss it, try to make sense of it, try to make the best of it, try to entertain you, and just take your mind off of it for a few seconds. Watch Butterfly Effect, and then you'll be happy that you're listening to this or watching this right now, not from a prison cell, because that could be pretty bad. You watch that movie. So yeah, Mike, anything you want to say before we end this Bills Rams post game recap?
You want to go see Gladiator?
Gladiator 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Okay.
Let's do it. Let's figure out a time. If anyone's watched that show, message us. Let us know if it's any good or not.
I want to go in. I don't want to know anything.
No, oh yeah, don't tell me anything about the movie. Don't ruin it. Don't spoil anything. My son's 9 and he finally figured out spoilers. I love it because I was reading him a book the other day and I'm like, oh, can you believe this happened? He's like, oh yeah, I already read the book. And I was like, you read the book and you didn't say anything this whole time? It's like an 80-page book. It's not crazy. But he's like, no, I didn't want to spoil it for you. And I'm like, nice, good. I feel like I taught him something.
Wasn't just wasting your time?
Yeah, I mean, we could have been reading such a better book.
Could have been playing games.
Yeah.
You could have been watching TV.
I could have been doing so many better things with my time than spending it with him. No, I'm just kidding. Cool, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Real quick, we're going to do a giveaway. Hold on. I got to bring up the screen real quick. As you can tell, I'm totally prepared for this. I have an Andre Reed signed jersey or signed poster to give away by the man himself. And we just got a few new folks that are eligible to win. So if you are not aware of how to win, you have to subscribe to us on YouTube. You have to leave a comment on YouTube or leave a comment on our videos on this stream and Facebook, or leave us a 5-star review on Spotify. Just message me and tell me that you've done that, because they don't allow you to actually say anything in Spotify. Whereas opposed to Apple Podcasts, you leave us a 5-star review, I'll have your name in there because it lets you put in a name. So let me share this screen. And don't try to hack my bank account, please, because I put my social security there. Let's see. Share screen.
Do you then ship out this poster? Dude, shipping is going to kill you.
Okay, I'll find it. How much does it cost to ship out a poster? Is it ridiculous?
I don't know.
Okay, maybe I'll give them a jersey. Jerseys are only like $12. I can do that. Worst case scenario, you get a jersey. Best case scenario, you get a poster. Let's see.
Wouldn't jersey be better?
Oh, 1,000 times better. But we'll see. We'll see.
But now you just completely disappointed the person.
I'll give them options. Okay, I'll probably have like 4 or 5 different Bills items and be like, pick the one that you want the most. So again, these are pick one. TD Rock. That's TDROC. TD Rock. You have won the Andre Reed signed poster or Gerald Talley jersey. I think I have a Marv Levy jersey, a Don Beebe jersey. So we'll talk about that again. And everyone that commented in the section that I didn't get a chance, the ones that I did read, and then the ones that I even didn't get a chance to read, you're automatically entered. You just have to, the only thing you have to do is listen or follow and message me after you've listened and said, oh, you called my name. DM me over any social media or just email me ctwpod@gmail.com. CTWpod, like Circling the Wagons pod@gmail.com. This was a fun topic, as fun as it could possibly be. A fun episode, given the circumstances. I appreciate all you guys listening, all you guys for being a part of this show. Signing off for Mike. And for me, Nate, go Bills. Again, I think everything that went wrong had to go wrong, and I think the Bills still looked really good. It's not going to be like this every week, and it's going to be really fun talking about the Bills after the Detroit Lions game. So we'll talk to you guys again after that.
Do you have an electric toothbrush?
I do have an electric toothbrush.
Is
Why?
your cap clear? My cap is clear, and it's an insane design choice. Like, you take it off, you set it down, it's gone.
That is a pretty interesting
Yours
choice.
clear?
No, I don't even have a cover for mine. I just take the head.
You don't have a cover?
No, I take the head off and
Dude.
put it away.
Oh, okay.
It's probably
Jeez.
much better than whatever you're doing. You're just keeping it out in the open air and just flushing the toilet all around it.
It's like covered in fecal matter.
Oh yeah. Well, the cap just encapsulates the fecal matter.
That kind of rings true, because even though it's a cap, it has like little holes, and there's no filter or anything.
Oh yeah, there's absolutely no filter. It's just, well, they don't want the mold to grow from it being wet and encapsulated.
Because I would see that eventually, where I'll never see the shit on it.
It's just enough to let the fecal particles just rush in after you just you drop a deuce and you don't put the fan on. So yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, I like how you laughed at me. You're like, dude, you don't have a cover for yours?
I never consider like taking the whole thing off.
Yeah, I take the head off and put that away. I think I leave the motor. I actually put the motor away too. I do. I just, because my wife will use her own head. So like there's separate heads for it so you can buy. So yeah, it's not like a one.
Wait, you share the same brush?
Well, we share the same motor, but there's different brush heads.
I feel like that would be too intimate still, because like the head is only like this.
I'm not like deep throating like the motor.
Yeah, but you open your mouth,
and the head's like this big.
I mean, the tiniest bit. It's going.
You think worst case scenario? I've kissed my wife before. It's not like she's yeah,
right.
So it's not that dirty of a. Jeez, man, you make it sound like it's.
No, I think humans though, don't you have something like when you're something in your brain when you start to get, how to phrase it delicately, when you're in the mood?
Yes.
Like
okay.
Your brain turns off the disgust that you feel for other humans.
The smells,
bodily fluids,
like yeah,
proximity. It just, otherwise, there wouldn't be any more humans.
The human race would cease to exist if you couldn't look past any of that stuff.
Yeah,
just like all of a sudden, it's like mew. Like it's just anytime a smell came across. By the way, by your partner or you, by the way, because it's like, dude, none of us are perfect. Like let's just be. So yeah, that's funny. Do you you mentioned putting a cap on your toothbrush? Do you at least put your toothbrush?
Well, it comes with...
well, yeah. Do you at least put the toothbrush away in the medicine cabinet when it's not being used?
No, it's out.
Oh, Mike.
Because the cap.
Mike, the cap. No, you got to put that away, man. Like you've probably been getting sick way more than you need to, because you got to put that. There is so much in the air that you don't see.
But it's not dysentery. When I get sick, it's common cold. It's not like the stuff you used to die from drinking the water that's been infected with feces, right? It's not like, oh, Mike got dysentery again this week.
That's true. But would you like, because I imagine you probably like wet your toothbrush before
that's true.
Well, yeah, but you still water down farts. It's like, what did you? I mean, it's still.
You do? Well, of course you close the lid on the toilet before you flush it.
No, I don't do that.
What?
I don't do that. No. It's always open.
Just spraying. It's like
always it's spraying everywhere. Yeah. Oh yeah, gets everywhere except my toothbrush though, because that's in the. All
the
over
only
the sink.
thing you really care about.
The only thing, all over the sink, all over the.
Everybody else,
the hamper. Oh, yeah. My family gets pink eye quite often. All right, man. I got to end the live stream. This was live streaming the whole time. All right, man.
What? All right.
Love you, man.
See ya. Love you. Go Bills.
Thank you for listening to the Circling the Wagons podcast. Download and subscribe to us in your favorite podcast service. Email us at ctwpod@gmail.com. That's Charlie Tango Whiskey Pod @gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at CTWPod. And most importantly, go Bills!
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, Nate.
Well, listen, the whole show is called Circling the Wagons. Say no more. I love it.